Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a large family living off-grid in Australia. It is Sunday. Normally I do a big chat video on a Sunday, except that I got the grocery video out this morning. So I am going to start Sunday's video now, but I'll probably finish it tomorrow. But I wanted to turn the camera on now because I wanted to share some of the stuff that I'm doing with some of the shorter needs stuff from the groceries, because I always like to do that. I did a big chow mein last night. I put photos of it in the grocery video, and I will make it again because I bought enough chow mein noodles to do another one. So I'll share the recipe for that when I make the next one in the next few days probably. But it is Father's Day today. I bought Darryl a few things for Father's Day from the kids. He had church this morning, and he also does a pastoral thing with the church on one Sunday afternoon a month. So he's off doing that at the moment as well. So he won't be back until dinner time or whatever. So in the meantime, I'm getting some dinner sorted. So to start off, I got these clearance potatoes. I got quite a few bags of these clearance baby potatoes. I need to get the rest of them out of the plastic because they will sweat in the weather changes at the moment. But what I've got is I've got a full pot of them here, which I'm going to steam, and then I'm going to smash them and roast them. So I'm going to get these going first because they take about 25 minutes to steam. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is some cauliflower cheese. Now, one of the things that can go wrong with a cauliflower cheese bake is that it can get quite watery, and that's normally caused from you past steaming your cauliflower and stuff before you put it in the white sauce, things like that. So what I like to do is roast the cauliflower. So because I've got the potatoes steaming, which I forgot to put a lid on, mind you. So while I've got those potatoes steaming, I'm going to get this in the oven, and I might do 2 of them because we've got plenty, and it's always nice the next day as well. I might do one dairy full and one dairy light as well, actually. So all I'm going to do is break it into smaller floret pieces, and we're going to put it on a baking tray. Now this box of cauliflower was cheap because the leaves are a bit yellow. They are aware that I really don't have any problem whatsoever with anything like that. So they sell them to certain people who don't have a problem with them, and they knew that I wouldn't, so they offered me some, which was nice. So, as I said, I'm just going to probably do 2 big heads, I think, and get them all on this tray, drizzled with a little bit of oil and salt, and roasted, and only for like sort of the same amount of time it'll take to steam the potatoes, and in that time I will make the cheese sauces as well for it. Alright, I was going to do 1 white sauce in the Thermix and 1 on the stove and just deal with having to mix one of them, which my hands don't really appreciate, but I was going to make do. But I can't use the Thermix at the moment. I don't know what's going on with the kitchen solar. We're still in the working things out, so I'm just gonna have to do 2 one after the other. So I'm going to do 1 based on coconut cream, but I'm going to add a little bit of cheese to it to give them that cheesy cauliflower thing, but with less dairy, because that's what we've started doing, is introducing some dairy, like some cheese and stuff, which is like, cheese is irreplaceable. You cannot, dairy-free cheese, just, it's not the same. But coconut cream is a perfectly serviceable replacement for cream or milk or whatever. It's in our house anyway, because we are so used to having coconut. Nothing even tastes like coconut. So that way we're reducing the dairy that they're consuming because we're still using coconut cream. But they can have, I'll put some cheese in here to melt and a little bit on top for the cauliflower bake, which will give them the feeling of the cheese, the texture and things like that. So that's what I'm going to do. So I've got some butter in here. I need some flour. Just going to create a normal white sauce roux. So we've got butter, about 4 tablespoons. It was probably a little bit more than that, but it was just the end of a block. going to melt that off. We're going to add the flour. I did ask for my stovetop, one of the jobs while I was gone shopping for my stovetop to have a bit of a scrub, but obviously no one got to it. Just a little bit of flour. My big bag of flour hasn't been tipped into the tub yet. So this is just plain flour from town. Now we're talking sort of a quarter to a third of a cup of flour, I suppose. And we're just going to cook that off a little bit till the flour smells kind of nutty and it's cooked off and doesn't have that raw flour sort of a flavour to it. Just checking these potatoes. A bit longer. Alright, so just nice sort of a smell to it. Toasted like cookies almost, without the sweet, the savoury. Alright, and then we're going to add the coconut cream. So what I normally do is about 500 mils all up. So I use a tin of coconut cream and then I just top it up with water to get the consistency that I need. So we're just going to mix that through. So that we don't get any lumps. We do it in stages. I'm sure I'm telling plenty of people how to suck eggs. Plenty of people watching will have made plenty of white sauces. I'm just going to turn that temperature down a little bit. So as I said, because this is cream, what I'm going to do is just get this last bit of cream mixed in, and then I'm going to fill the tin with water, because then it will be like a mix of cream and milk. There we go. Simple as that, though my arm and shoulder and hands are killing me. But that's how easy that is. And now I'm going to turn that right down to low, let that simmer for a little bit, and we're going to add some seasoning. I'm just going to put a sprinkle of Vegeta in there, a bit of salt and seasoning, and I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of Dijon mustard as well. I'm going to mix that through, and then I'm just going to add some of this Mexican cheese because I've got it left over in the fridge. We haven't been using it. Like that, to give it that bit of texture, and then I'll sprinkle that on the top as well. So that is sauce 1 done, and I basically will just repeat the process, but I will use some of this garlic pepper cheese that I bought and some dairy cream that I bought as well, but basically it'll be the same thing, and then I'll bring you back when I'm getting them both into the baking trays. Alright, I've split the lightly roasted cauliflower, so it's got some colour on it. It's a little bit tender, but it won't release a whole lot of water now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cheese sauces. So I'm just going to pour the very generous amount of cheese sauce for this amount of cauliflower. I probably could have done more cauliflower, but realistically, can you ever have too much cheese sauce? And I'm just going to mix that around, and this is going to give some what in the end this is going to give some cheese sauce for the potatoes as well, because I'm going to roast the potatoes separately. I probably could have done big trays and done the potato in with the cheese sauce, and probably would have been the right amount, but hey, as I said, you can never have too much cheese sauce. And then I'm just going to put, I thought that one was open, just going to put a sprinkle of pizza cheese on top, because it'll give that browning and slightly stretchy. Again, we're not overdoing it. We're putting a little bit of dairy in there to just give them that irreplaceable factor. So we've got the 2 cauliflower bakes to go back in the oven, like that. All right. So they will go back in the oven. I might sprinkle them with a little bit of everything bagel actually. Sesame seeds will toast, those bits of garlic and
onion and salt. That will be tasty. All right, so they're done. So now on the trays that I cooked the cauliflower on, which are here, I'm going to smash the potatoes. So preferably one tray because otherwise I'll have problems fitting everything in. So I got my potato masher, and all I'm going to do is flatten the potatoes, and then I'm going to drizzle them with a bit of oil, salt, maybe the everything bagel. I know, I use it on everything. I did say I do. I might put some of these just in the fridge to use tomorrow or something because I don't think I'll need all of them. I just wanted to do a whole pot's worth while I was steaming them. And then I'm just going to spray them with some oil because that will help all that skin crisp up. Tiny bit of everything bagel, which is, you know, again, the salt, the garlic, the onion, the sesame seeds, all that. And then I'm going to throw this and the cauliflower bake in the oven on low, just really low, because it's 5 o'clock. Darryl, I'm not sure exactly when Darryl will be home, and we'll cook the steak once he's home. So that's what we're going to do. So I've used up some of those potatoes, I've used up some of that cauliflower, and this is Father's Day dinner. I have no idea where this is going to go in the scope of videos and everything else, but I posted a photo on Facebook of the chow mein that I'd made, and they asked me to share the recipe, so I'm going to do that. So I've got a couple of chicken breasts here cut up nice and fine. I'm going to put some of my all-purpose like stir-fry type sauce over it before I've added the cornstarch to it. This is a mix of oyster sauce, Shaoxing wine, a bit of chicken stock, some sugar, pepper, soy sauce, that sort of thing. And it's based around the Charlie sauce on Recipe 10 Eats if you want some ratios for it. So I've just put a little bit of the marinade, a little bit of the sauce on there to marinate to sit there while I cut the veggies up. And I'll just marinate that for the time it takes me to slice up all the veggies. And now that I've added that to the chicken, I will add some cornstarch to the sauce to use as the sauce. So all I'm going to do is cut up a bunch of veggies. So I've got some carrots that I'll cut into little wedge type things, cutting them fairly small because I'm using a whole bunch of bok choy, and bok choy cooks so quickly that we want all the veggies to be fairly quick cooking. So going to just cut them on an angle into little fingery things. We're going to do some broccoli. I'm just going to cut it into fairly small florets. Again, we just want it to cook fairly quickly so that we get some texture left in it and the bok choy and everything. I like to use the stems in stir fry as well. I just cut them into strips and they just end up being green stir fry veg. And we've got some zucchini that I'm just going to cut up into some chunks so that it holds its shape still a little bit. Using up all these gorgeous cheap green veg that we got with the shop that will only last for the first week or two. The broccoli will last a couple of weeks in the fridge containers, but the zucchini we only normally get sometimes 2 weeks out of. But see, this was a box of already damaged stuff, so because it was already damaged, we're going to get less time out of it. So we grated a whole lot of it up and put it straight in the freezer of the stuff that just needed like the ends cut off. It had visible that the ends were a bit soft and things like that. So Sonnet cut all that up and grated it for me and stuck it in the freezer. And now we're just going to use the fresh stuff for the next week. And then we've just got the bok choy. So all I'm doing is the thicker pieces. I'll slit the stems down the middle, leave the leaves in one piece. I'll actually get a second bowl for the bok choy because we tend to put that in last. Alright, so we've got a big bowl here with all the mixed harder veggies and a big bowl here of all the softer veggies. So we'll cook the chicken off first a little bit, We'll add all the hard veggies, we'll add all the soft veggies, and we will add the sauces. Now I am going to add cornstarch to the sauce, about a 1/4 cup. I'll just use the end of that packet, 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup, and I'll whisk that in. This has some chicken stock in it too as the liquid, which I wouldn't always water it down with chicken stock if I was using it as a stir fry sauce, but because we want it that nice thick loose sauce, then I've added some chicken stock, and I might top it up a little bit with water. We will see. So now I'm just going to get the pans ready and get everything cooking. Frying off the chicken in a hot pan, I've also got oil heating up in a stainless steel pan to fry the noodles off in. I just do small cakes of noodles. If you want to keep them hot and crispy between serves, you can put them in a preheated oven or whatever, but I just put them on the plates and it's fine, no one's worried. So I've just split the chicken between 2 pans. Don't have a huge amount of chicken. There is plenty of chicken. I could have used more, but I didn't because we have so many veggies that it's worth just cooking a little bit off the flavour and that without overusing it. So cooking this off a little bit, we'll get this skin on this, and then we'll start adding the veggies. So I just grab 100 grams of the noodles, and all I do is I spread them out in the oil and create little cakes out of them. All right, and then we're just going to start adding some of the veggies. So I'm just going to half them between the 2 pans, half the zucchini, half the broccoli, half the carrots, and then we will just mix these up. Now, I do add a tiny bit of water and put a lid on these just to steam the veggies slightly, because it's not the same high heat as a wok or something like in an Asian restaurant. So I just throw in sort of a 1/4 cup of water and put a lid on just to help these veggies steam a little bit. Alright, so the veggies have steamed a little bit and softened, so now we're going to add the bok choy. And all I'm going to do is add half and half, and we're just going to rotate a little bit so that the bok choy is hitting the hot liquid, and then we're just going to stick the lid back on. We're going to let that wilt a little bit, and then we'll add the sauce and give it another couple of minutes, and everything will be done. Right, veggies are, the bok choy is wilted and everything is a little bit tender. So now we're going to add the sauce, and we're just going to add approximately half in each one. And with the cornstarch in, and we'll leave the lid off this, and with the cornstarch in this will cook up, thicken up, and be nice and shiny. It's pretty much all it takes, those 60 seconds of heat to cook that cornstarch and thicken that sauce, and then all we'll do is we'll serve it over the noodles. So I'll flick them off until I finish the noodles, and then
I think they can tell it's
I'll
dad
show you serve.
from the tattoo arm
They know it's dad, yes.
and the hairy arm and the manly arm.
So we got the crispy noodles all cooked up, and all we can do is slather them in the nice wet. Probably should have done a little bit more liquid just so that the noodles had a bit more liquid. I obviously have underdone that a little bit, but that's what we do. There we go, luscious dish of the crispy noodles with the rich, flavorful chow mein sauce. Now you can always do these noodles soft. Someone was commenting that they don't like the crispy noodles on Facebook. I really like this dish with crispy noodles. But I like it with soft noodles too. It works with udon and all the rest of it as well. I don't always make it as tacky with the cornstarch if I'm not doing it with the crispy noodles. If it's a looser noodle, then quite often, because I'm going to stir fry it through the noodles rather than serve it on top, then I'd probably put a little bit less cornstarch in it. But otherwise, this is the delicious... This is a dish that I used to buy whenever I had Chinese because I could never replicate it at home. And I finally gotten to a point where I'm pretty happy with how it works from home.
Alright, it is Wednesday and this video has spanned most of the week from when I got back. The weather is horrible, it's raining again today. The kids have had their final term assessments due for a bunch of subjects, so we've been doing that all week and just catching up on all the stuff. But I wanted to share the 2 recipes that I did, the meals recently, and then I thought I'd finish off today with the last lot of stuff that I've got to do. So what I need to do today is make the chili crisp oil and the ramen seasoning because the kids have been at me to do that. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, the ramen seasoning, everyone was happy with the ramen seasoning that I did last time. I put the recipe in the description. So I'm going to make it exactly the same again. Everyone was super happy with that. The chili crisp oil ended up being a bit too spicy, so we have adapted that slightly and added some more crunch. So we'll do that as well. Going to fill those jars up to use. And I still do have some cauliflower that really needs to be riced and frozen. And I think the tomatoes are still sitting there waiting for me to do something with the ones that we haven't eaten. So we will see how we go. I haven't eaten yet today and it's 2 o'clock. So the plan is to get this ramen seasoning made and the chili crisp oil, and I'll make myself some noodles, and then we will go from there and see what we get done. And as I said, the video is just going to be all over the place. It's going to be a week of bits and pieces that I've done in the kitchen since getting back from the shop. And today has been made even more difficult because it is raining. So the roof is leaking because we're still in progress and things like that. So let's get started anyway, and I'll get some stuff put together and we will get moving. So first of all, the chili oil. I've got the oil heating at the moment. We want to get that to 175 Celsius, 350 Fahrenheit, which it is almost there. So we're going to mix up all the stuff. I've just toasted off a whole lot of sesame seeds. Now, ratio wise, we're going to do we've got 3 cups of oil there because we went through this pretty quickly. We've got a cup and a half. I think it was a cup and a half worth of sesame seeds that I've just toasted. Then someone suggested using peanuts and we adored this. So we will do the same, a cup and a half of peanuts in there. Then we're going to add some garlic. Now I've got the garlic that I minced up into chunks and then froze, so I'm going to use that, and I'm going to use around about 4 of those sort of heaped tablespoons in there. We're going to put a tiny bit of salt and a tiny bit of black pepper, probably just half a teaspoon of each in there. Then we're going to do a tablespoon of soy sauce, and I used some black vinegar in it last time, but the black vinegar doesn't appear to be under my shelf for some reason. We're going to use just a teaspoon of chicken stock and the chili flakes. Now, we used 3 tablespoons of chili flakes to a lot less last time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with, I've only the 5 heaped teaspoons there. Though I think I'll need a little bit more than that, because we did 3 tablespoons. Let's go 8, which would equal around about 2 tablespoons. So we'll sit that in there for the moment. And then we're going to pour the oil over it. And that was just a neutral vegetable oil. I did try and grab some peanut oil. I wanted to try it with some peanut oil, but I didn't manage to find any at Costco. I either walked past it or they didn't have it at the time. So that's the chili oil done. We're going to put that aside to just sit for a bit.
And then we'll mix up the ramen seasoning as well. So we're going to do a cup of this Knorr chicken, which is what we've found is the preferred base. And the kids will just use the Knorr on its own if I don't mix up, but I prefer to mix up a blend that includes the Knorr. So we've got the Knorr chicken. We're going to do some pepper. I'm going to pour the rest of that in there, sort of a heaping tablespoon of pepper. We're going to do some onion flakes and some garlic powder. We're going to do a 1/4 cup of onion flakes and a 1/4 cup of garlic powder. And we're also going to do some smoked paprika and some greens. So let me find those. We're going to do the same 1/4 cup of paprika, except it's empty and I didn't realise. Grabbed the wrong jar. That was the bacon seasoning jar. Smoked paprika. Oop. About a 1/4 cup. We're generous with our smoked paprika. And then I've got some parsley here as well. So again, about a 1/4 cup of parsley. And then all we're going to do is get a lid and mix it. Mix it up like that. And we have ramen seasoning. And we just use a teaspoon of that with some of the chili oil on the fresh noodles. So obviously the kids were doing blue cupcakes and they've spilt blue dye on, it's on the side of the jar here. I'd say that's where I got it from. So yeah, so that's the ramen seasoning, chili oil done. We're just gonna let that cool for a little bit. I'm gonna cook up some noodles. I'm gonna put this on charge briefly. I'll bring you back to show the noodles. And then we'll see where we go from there. All right, so this is how we serve the noodles. These are freshly boiled. A little bit of the water is still left in the noodles. I don't drain them as such. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of the ramen seasoning on there. I'm going to put a little drizzle of sesame oil because I really like sesame oil, and a tiny bit of the ABC sauce as well. Oop, that was a bit more than I really needed, but that's fine. And then we're going to grab a bunch of the solids from the chili oil. So lots of crunch, as well as some of the oil on its own, just to create plenty of looseness in those noodles. All right, and then poached myself an egg to go on top in the noodle water. So we've got the poached egg on top of it as well. So that is our ramen seasoning chili oil noodles. All right, so I've eaten mine and we've ended up with a little bit more than a quart jar worth, which is fine. We will go through it nice and quickly. So we will let this finish cooling and I'll put the lids on it. Now, the last thing I'm going to do for today, I'm going to make green curry for dinner, but you've seen me make green curry many times, so I'm not going to show you that. What I'm going to do is basically use up a whole bunch of the veggies again. I've splattered myself with oil from my noodles. So I'm going to use up a whole lot of the veggies to get that done again tonight. But I have the cauliflowers left. There's about 4 or 5, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rice those. I will use some in the green curry tonight. So what I tend to do is I've dabbled in blanching and freezing vegetables, or just freezing them straight, like broccoli and cauliflower and things like that, and we don't like it. No matter what I do, I don't like it. But cauliflower, if I rice it, we're happy to eat it. So I will rice it and put it as a vegetable in the green curry, or fry it off as a rice with a little bit of water to steam it, and fry it off as a rice alternative for Darryl when he's eating keto. When it's in those little tiny pieces, it seems to work. But when it's in larger pieces, not so much. I did contemplate trying freezing some roasted and then turning it into cauliflower cheese, but I just don't think I'd like it because it just ends up squishy.
And that's the problem, is that the water freezes and breaks down. I think, see, we buy frozen veggies that they don't have, the mix that I buy doesn't have cauliflower in it, but I have bought ones with cauliflower in them before, and I don't mind them. But the thing is that when they're frozen, like commercially, they freeze them, snap freeze them, and my freezers just aren't cold enough, so it takes too long for those water crystals to freeze, and then it doesn't work. They're just not nice. So frozen veggies end up costing us about $6.50 per kilo, which is far more than I pay for most of my veggies that I buy fresh, which is where the problem is, and I prefer the fresh veggies for a lot of things. But it is what it is. So we have the frozen veggies to use later on in the month, and they are perfectly good for anything. I just steam them. They go in curries, they go in dishes, they just get steamed with a bit of butter on the side of a plate, all those sorts of things. So I always buy like 12, 15 kilos worth of frozen veggies as well. And then I do freeze some of the stuff, like potatoes I will roast and freeze, and then we can just reheat them to eat like that. The broccoli tends to last for a good 2 or 3 weeks in the fridge. Cabbage can last 6 weeks. Carrots can last 6 weeks as well. Like, there's certain things that last really well because we've got those big chest freezers. But cauliflower is not really one of them. It just tends to brown really badly, and it actually hasn't even gone in the fridge since Saturday, which I'm a bit frustrated with because it's still sitting in the box on the table, but it does still have its outer leaves, so I'm hoping that most of it is perfectly okay. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it in the Thermix and I'm going to rice it. Some of it will be used for dinner tonight, and the rest of it I'm just going to freeze. And I don't even do much effort to freeze it. I just freeze it in Ziploc bags and then break chunks of it off when I'm ready to use it, and I find that that works really well. I will only do it if the cauliflower is cheap. But in saying that, cauliflower rice, like if you're buying the riced cauliflower frozen in the shops, it's like, I think it's $4.95 for a 500 gram pack, so almost $10 a kilo. So it's still going to be cheaper to buy your own and do it, even when it's not super cheap. So, you know, that's what you have to come by. But I am having issues with timing. Anyway, I'll grab the cauliflower and then I'll keep going. So they're perfectly fine inside. We'll just trim them a little bit if need be. And the pigs love all these excess leaves. Lamington likes a few of them as well. Some of these need a good wash, which is fine. So what I was saying, back when I started doing a lot of these videos where I do the monthly shop, and then I'd spend the next week doing almost daily videos of all the food prep. The thing was that was pretty much all I was focusing on, was doing those videos to build the business of YouTube up, and because that was just the focus at the time. And recently we've had, you know, expanded the converting jobs and things like that, and because of that there's just more to do. The new schooling has become more required of me, hands-on time required of me, and all these sorts of things, and I just found that I haven't had the time that I'd like to focus on getting some of this stuff done, and some stuff is going to the wayside, so I need to figure that out. I just went to grab all those tomatoes and realized that nobody put the tomatoes in the fridge, so we've eaten a lot of them, but there's a dozen that have gone moldy and will need to be fed to the animals. Now, I should have just thrown them all in the freezer, because the purpose of them was I was just going to make more pizza sauce out of them, and if I'm just making pizza sauce, they can just be frozen and roasted from frozen. Things like that, I need to adapt my thinking a little bit, because I hate food waste. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. And it is one of the things, like, it's my major reason for doing everything that I do, is to avoid food waste. And if buying the stuff in bulk, I'm going to waste it. As I said, it's not really a waste. It will go to the animals, and the animals require feeding as well. And like that box of tomatoes was part of that $20 pack, which had all the excess pears and all that sort of stuff, as well as the tomatoes and the beans. And it cost me a couple of bucks for all those tomatoes. That's not the point. Those couple of bucks worth of tomatoes could have been half a dozen jars of pizza sauce, and instead they were fresh eating. The kids have fresh eaten them for the last week on wraps and things like that, but the rest of them are going to be fed to the animals. And again, as I said, it's not really wastage. It's going to the animals. The animals need to be fed too, but it's not the purpose of the purchase. So anyway, I'm just going to
cut these into some smaller pieces before they go into the Thermomix so that they rice up nice and evenly. And then I will rice them and bag them up, and I'll show you those. And then that will be it from me, because then all I've got left for the day is to make the green curry for dinner. Coconut rice green curry for dinner. And then I will edit this tonight to go out tomorrow. Alright, I'm going to leave this one to cook for dinner tonight because I can cut it into some bigger florets for dinner tonight, which is nice. And then I've got all this to rice. So I'm just going to throw all this back in the box for the animals. The pigs love the really big chunks of the core, and the ducks love all the leafy greens, and so do the chooks. As I said, Lamington likes some of it, geese like some of it. We just transferred all the turkeys to their new space. I haven't really done a Sunday update this week, but I'm not going to do it now because it's, you know, almost all the way through the week, and we've got a few projects that we should hopefully have mostly done by the end of the week to share on the next Sunday. So I think I'm just going to wait till then. So this one can be had with dinner tonight, and we're going to rice all these in the Thermomix. So all I'm going to do is grab a Thermomix bowl. I'm just going to rinse it because it's had rainwater in it. And it's not the rainwater that's the issue, it's the fact that it came off these roofs. Just to clarify that. And all I'm going to do, that one's not plugged in and I don't have the bowl for the 7 here. Turn it on, and I'm just going to break these into parts. These have all been chopped, checked for any bugs, given a quick rinse. Now, we don't want to put too much in the bowl at once because then otherwise we won't get uniform sizing. I'm just going to grab a Ziploc bag, and all I'm going to do is, in the Thermomix, I'm using the TM6 here. I'm just going to put the lid on it and spin it to speed 5. And we're sorted. Now, as I said, too many bits in there or too different size, you end up with some that isn't quite right, but I don't want it to be any finer than this. So I find that it's better off just to pull those couple of big bits out and then put them back in the next slot. So it's just, you just got to figure out the right amount to go in there to work. So we break it up into some smaller pieces, and we're just going to, I will just repeat this process till I get it all done. If the green leaves were in good condition, I would have used the green leaves as well, but this was a cheap box because all the leaves were yellow, so instead the animals get to have them. So 4 seconds again. That one is a bit more even, I think, because I just broke up the pieces initially to start with better. So that's all I'm going to do. I'll bring you back once I'm done, show you, and then I'll finish out the video. I actually decided, I emptied a broccoli veggie container out last night, so I had an empty one sitting on the sink, so I filled that with cauliflower for the next sort of, it'll probably last another 5 days in that, if I stick it in the bottom of the chest fridge. And I've got this big bag of cauliflower rice. Now, sometimes I split it up into smaller bags, but I actually find that it breaks up really easily anyway. So if I just stick it straight in the freezer like this, I can just break chunks of it off when I want it. So we've got one left out for dinner tonight, a container to put away in the fridge for the next few days, and a bag in the freezer. So that's pretty good out of a box of very cheap cauliflower. Might have been 30 bucks, I can't remember. It wasn't expensive anyway because it was yellow. So that's that. So I'm going to leave it there for this video. So it's sort of a all over the place video of a whole bunch of different things post that groceries. As I said, I used to do these like daily videos of all the prep that I do coming home, but I used to buy a lot more. There was a lot less bought this trip because I only had the car. But it used to be my everything. It was what I was doing
other than the homeschooling the kids, I didn't do much else. This stuff was it, and we've really changed the structure of how we're doing things lately, and I'm running out of time more. So these videos, I still do a lot in that first week back, but I forget to turn the camera on, and I don't find it as easily shareable. So we're getting there, but everyone's coming along to learn the process of how we do it, and what we're doing and everything else. Yeah, it's hard. So thanks for joining me again, guys, and I will see you on the next video. There's a hamper this Saturday too, so there'll be a hamper video this week.